What is up, gang? Kevin Iole here. One of the things I love about MMA is just the diverse backgrounds that all these fighters come from. And my next guest is on an unbelievable role in the UFC's welterweight division. Really looking good, coming off an incredible win in France. But not long ago, he looked like he belonged on press row, not in the octagon. How big he was. He brought this guy, Bryan Battle, has fought in 5 weight classes in MMA in his journey. Right now, one of the bright young prospects in the UFC's welterweight division. Bryan Battle, of course, is going to be fighting a tough fight against Randy Brown, opening the preliminary card at UFC 310 at T-Mobile Arena. Bryan, how are you, my friend?
Mr. Kevin, thank you for having me. Thank you for using the word young in your description of me. You know what I'm saying? I feel older and older every day. So, I appreciate it.
Look at this gray hair, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I know. You got to put it in perspective. You know what I'm saying? People who are older than me hate when I say that. You know what I'm saying? But it just, it is what it is. Time is undefeated. But thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. Just really impressed with what you've done. Won the Ultimate Fighter at middleweight, moved on to welterweight. And if it wasn't for an eye poke, you'd be on a pretty good winning streak. But I want to ask you about that Kevin Jousset fight before anything else. I mean, that was an incredible card in France over there, and you had a great knockout of Jousset. Which might have been an award winner, but for us, kind of got you with one toward the end of the night. But what a KO you had over Jousset.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was that whole night was definitely magical. Like, just the crowd. Even though I wasn't the fan favorite, they were amazing. The energy was incredible. Shout out to the French people. Kevin, shout out to him. He was a game opponent. You know what I'm saying? It takes two to tango. And, there's a difference between an entertaining fight and a beatdown. You know what I'm saying? We had a real fight. Me and him, we went toe to toe. So shout out to Kevin. He's a really tough dude. I can't wait to see what he does in the future. And, shout out to all the people who got me prepared because, I went in there like a machine. I wasn't going to lose that fight one way or another. You know what I'm saying? I was getting them out of there. So it was just a magical night, a magical performance. And, it's really altered the trajectory of my career.
Yeah, I'll say the odds makers really believe in you. At DraftKings, you were a minus 230 favor, which is a pretty big number. Randy Brown is plus 190. And if you look at Randy Brown's record, he has won 7 of his last 8 fights. You win 7 of 8 in the UFC, and you were doing something, and you were better than a 2-1 favorite to win this fight. I imagine, you're not surprised that you're the favorite. Were you surprised the spread was as big as it was?
Nah, man. I mean, because it's all about matchups, and I'm just like a bad matchup for everybody, period. But I mean, especially for someone like Randy, you know what I'm saying? Like Randy, he's like you said, he's really good. He's really sharp. But like our styles clash. And fortunately, because he's so good, because he's been streaking like he has been, because he has been looking like he has been, it's forced me to, even in the short amount of time I've had, you know what I'm saying, to get ready for this fight since the last fight, it's just forced me to get better. You know what I'm saying? Like, I stay up at night thinking about Randy, thinking about the things that he's good at, thinking about the things he might try to do to me. So it's forced me to up my game even more. And so I'm excited to get in there on Saturday and show you guys a whole new version of the Butcher.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if I see a new version, boy, that's really amazing because of what you've been doing. And I want to go back, I referenced that you were heavy 8 years ago, right? And I just love the idea of the fact that you decided to change your life. And you not only changed it for health reasons and everything else, but you became an elite world-class athlete. When you decided, hey, I want to turn around and I want to forget about being a fat 300-pound guy and I want to be an in-shape guy, did you have the intention in your head then that you wanted to be an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, I got into a point where it's like I knew I needed to lose weight, but the amount of weight I lost was for the sake of competition. The first day I walked into an MMA gym, it's like, you always got to ask people, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so what are you looking for? Are you looking for a hobby? You looking, to get in shape?
Right.
You looking, and I was sitting there, I was like, I want to fight. You know what I'm saying? They're like, with no background at 21, it's like, okay, buddy, let's see, show up and train for a little bit. We'll see if you're really going to fight. But, no, I was like, I really had an irrational belief, it's like, wouldn't say it out loud all the times, but especially once I started training, then it was like, okay, I'm gonna be a world champion one day. As I got a funny story about my 22nd birthday party. I'm young, what I'm saying. I got blackout drunk, but the next morning, people were trying to leave the house, and I wouldn't let them leave the house unless they looked at me without smiling and told me I was going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. Now, granted, so now I'm not going to be the heavyweight champion, but I am going to be a world champion, and that's always like been in the back of my mind.
How long was it when you were starting out before other people were saying you believed you were going to be the champion, but before other people started to say, "Hey, this kid has potential even at heavyweight"?
Well, because of my lack of athletic tools, you could say, like, I'm an athletic guy, but I'm not blowing you away with my athleticism. You know what I'm saying?
You're not Shohei Ohtani.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not showing up the very first day and people are like, yo, this guy's a blue chipper. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if people get to spend a week or more with me in the gym, that's when people's opinions start changing. Like, I mean, you could go back and watch The Ultimate Fighter. I was picked last for my team, but as that season went on, when they circled back and they talked to Volk, he was like, if I could do it over again, you know what I'm saying, I would pick him first. It's like, because it's just, with me, it's like, you got to spend time with me in the gym to understand what my game is all about. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what messes up people on fight night. People who've never trained with me. It's like they don't realize exactly what they're getting in there with until they get in there with me. They don't know exactly what they're dealing with until they feel me, and by that point, it's too late. You know what I mean?
Kelvin Gastelum's another guy that was picked last on The Ultimate Fighter, went on to win the season, and then has had a great career. Is there a commonality, you think, in mindset? Like, do you get pissed off when you're picked last and disrespected like that and say, I'm going to show you?
Yeah, but I think you have to believe you're that dude first and foremost. There's a lot of people who are like, they get picked last and they're okay with that because of like the lack of pressure, or because subconsciously that's where they think they belong. But if you're someone who really believes, like, I mean, I figured in my head, I talked myself, I felt like I could have been the first round, like the first pick, but
Right.
I knew just on paper that wasn't going to happen. I didn't have wrestling or anything like that, but I knew I shouldn't have been anything lower than the second pick. And so when I was the last pick, I was genuinely upset. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think, and the thing is like, it isn't like an entitlement thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, and I've gotten used to it at this point. Like, people kind of like not taking me seriously and having to, show them. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's what's happened with the fans. Like, I've had this meteoric rise in the UFC because, at first I'm not blowing anybody away, so I got to show people. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm excited about this fight with Randy Brown. I'm going against an elite fighter. People know his name, and I get to show people why I'm one of the best welterweights on the planet.
In a lot of his fights, he physically outmatches whoever he's fighting, the reach, the height, all that kind of things. He's not, he's going to be a little bit taller than you, but, your reach is the same, you're similar. So do you think that has to change the way he approaches you? Because, he knows in most of those fights, hey, I have a certain advantage that allows me to fight a certain way. Do you think against you it changes?
Yes and no, not for real, because he's still a little bit longer. And like I said, based off the way I fight and the way he fights, it's just like, it is what it is. Like, I'm coming for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just gonna have to stay on his bike. You know what I'm saying? Period. He's gonna have to stay on his bike. He's gonna have to stay active. He's gonna have to stay long. You know what I'm saying? If I get in the pocket, it's a pain. That's a painful situation for him. So, in the way where he's gonna have to mind his P's and Q's a little bit more because I am longer. But I don't think he's really changing his style. You know what I'm saying? I think he's just going to try to execute his style at a higher level.
Sure. I want to ask you about the Ultimate Fighter versus the Contender Series. More and more of the fighters now are coming off the Contender Series as opposed to the Ultimate Fighter. Whereas in 2005 till, I don't know what year it was, maybe 2018, that most of the new fighters came through the Ultimate Fighter.
Yep.
When you look at the Contender Series, do you feel like that's the better way to do it? And, going forward, like, do you think that provides a better avenue for fighters as opposed to being in that house for so long? Or do you think that being in the house and having that pressure of being around the guys you're fighting kind of steals you for battle, so to speak?
Well, period. Like, however you can get in, take it. You know what I'm saying? If they offer you the Contender Series, they offer you the Ultimate Fighter, they offer you they offer you a fight on 4 days' notice. I don't care what you got to do. Make the weight, show up, get in the UFC. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're about it, be about it. But my thing, I think the Ultimate Fighter, I know the Ultimate Fighter is tougher just based off, the fact that it's like, yes, you got to live in a house. Like, there's a whole mental part of the game, and it
Right.
is. You have to make weight twice in a short amount of time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to, fight not one person. You got to fight three people to win. So I mean, and that's on certain seasons. You got to fight more people. You got to fight like 5 times to win. So I think the Ultimate Fighter is still the tougher, better one. People get to know you a little bit better. The unfortunate thing is the people who watch get to know you a little bit better. People don't watch the Ultimate Fighter anymore. That's the only thing is
Right.
Contender Series, more people watch. And if you make a real big statement, then you'll probably have more fans coming off the Contender Series. The problem is the Contender Series, there's so many people fighting. It's
Right.
really like you got to do something serious you either got to be a high level prospect that people know before the Contender Series, or you got to do something wild to really make a statement on there. But I ain't gonna. However you get in, I ain't hating on it. You know what I'm saying? Get in by whatever means necessary.
Let, just want to wrap with this. I asked Vicente Luque this earlier, and I'll ask you. A lot of welterweight fights on this card, so that I would think you get a chance to see your competition, right? Look around and see who you're going to be stacking up against. Is that a good thing for you, or are you one of the guys that just gets so zoned on your fight that you don't know anything else that's happening?
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I mean, it's like you just get to see people and size people up and get a vibe of people. It's not really gonna make any difference to me. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna affect my fight or my performance, but I definitely prefer it just because like you said, it's like I just get to see people. Like this week I'll get to see Vicente. Normally I don't get to see Vicente. You know what I'm saying? This week,
Right.
I'll get to see Shavkat. I'll get to see Ian. You know what I'm saying? I don't get to see those guys. So even just seeing people. You know what I'm saying? Like not even training with them, just seeing with them, getting a feel for their energy, getting a feel for like who they are as a person, not who they are on the camera, who they are as an individual, like, behind closed doors. You know what I'm saying? When you take the mask off, see who they are, look into their eyes, you know what I'm saying? See what they're really about. It makes a difference. You know what I'm saying? It's always a little bit different when you can, even if you don't get to physically check them, you get to just check their vibes. You know what I'm saying? Whenever you get
Right.
that matchup, you just have an idea of who they are before you meet up that fight week.
And finally, you got the glasses on like the star. You're going to expect to win this fight against Randy Brown, which would be a big win. So what do you want 2025 to look like for you, assuming you get past Randy on Saturday?
When I get past Randy on Saturday, we're just gonna keep on going. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna enjoy Christmas and New Year's with my family. But even with that being said, I'm gonna be back in the gym the whole time, working, getting better. And I mean, the thing is like every fight is tougher, so there's really no time to really like cool. Like when I beat Randy, cool. Like I beat Randy, but now I know whoever I fight next is gonna be better. So it's like I got to be taking what I learned from this fight and applying it to this fight. You know what I'm saying? I gotta not just be keeping an eye on them. I gotta be keeping an eye on myself personally and holding myself accountable and realizing, I have not reached the pinnacle yet. You know what I'm saying? I have to keep on working and getting better until I can get to where I want to be. You know what I mean?
Do you anticipate being ranked after this fight?
Of course. I think like right now, I should be ranked. You know what I'm saying? And it's not something I'm going to be too pressed about. Should I be? Of course. Should I be? Of course. Will I be? Who knows? You know what I'm saying? That's out
Yeah.
of my control. And for that reason, I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about it. I know what I am. You know what I'm saying? Like we said earlier, if people don't believe in me, more people are going to believe in me after this fight. Whoever doesn't believe in me after I whoop Randy, they're going to believe in those people are going to be converted into Bryan Battle believers after the next fight. So we're just going to keep on whooping up on people and making people believers in the butcher.
Well, I call myself a 3B, a Bryan Battle believer. So I'm one of the ones that believes. Bryan Battle, good luck, brother. We wish you luck against Randy Brown.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.